I read it with a Harvard Business Review that 90% of adults have deep regret life decisions that we either A, don't never face, or B, we always face them, right? And out of that 90%, they say that 66% of those professionals, because of those regrets, fail to take that action step to put themselves vulnerable enough to go up for that promotion because they keep on telling themselves, I can't do it, or I'm not prepared, or I'm not the right person.
There's a big difference than making a decision and then realizing you made maybe not the decision that was the most beneficial, or the one that you didn't want to make, later in life. Then I didn't make this decision because I was afraid of what was going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. And then the question is, I'm Brandon Johnson.
I'm Tyler Reckla, and this is the Synergy Code Podcast.
So let's talk this week about the time machine of truth, of what is the purpose of self-reflection. The reason why I wanted to talk about this week, or this episode, is I've been hearing a lot of adults in the professional arena ask themselves, what if I would have done XYZ in the past? Mm-hmm. And it got me thinking, what is the purpose of always hoping and wishing to change something that you have no control over anymore?
Sure. Do you ever go back and in hindsight, reflect back on your past and everything like that too?
Oh yeah. I mean, we all do,
right.
But the problem I'm wondering, and that I really wanted to try to iron out today, was why do we do it and spend so much time instead of looking more forward to the future of what could be instead of what has already happened? I
think it's one of those things where it's like hindsight's 2020. Mm-hmm. When you make a decision, I don't care what it is. You make a decision, you buy a car, you buy a house, you marry your spouse, whatever it is. You always think, was that the right choice? Mm-hmm. Right? Could I, if I could do it over, would I do it the same way? Right? What would that choice be had I done it this way instead of that way? Like, you can go the simplest choice, right? You go to a gas station and you go and buy a drink, you buy a soda, and you buy whatever, you buy a Mountain Dew, right? You walk out and you're like, man, do I really want a Mountain Dew, or did I want a Pepsi?
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the thing. You're always looking back and thinking, could I have done better, or would it have been better had I made this choice? I think that's a lot of reason why people look back.
But what advantage does that gain you in the present to prepare for the future if you're always constantly looking behind you of what has already happened, instead of instead of focusing your time and energy on what is ahead of you? And I say this why? I say this because of this, right? How many times have we missed an opportunity because we never prepared for an opportunity that we don't even know exists yet? Mm-hmm. Meaning, if we wait for someone to come at our door, or in a grocery store, at a random spot, and they're like, hey, I got this opportunity for you. Can you do this? And then we're like, yes, I can. And then you start preparing. They're not going to wait for you to be ready.
Right.
They're expecting you, right? So if we spend the time focusing on, hey, I didn't land this lead to sell, I didn't sell this contract, man, but 20 years ago, if I would have just took a left at this street instead of a right, I wouldn't be in the sales position. I would have invested in Yahoo when Yahoo was good, or before Amazon was Amazon.
I think part of it that though is, I think retrospect can be good though, because you the same reason why we have a history class in high school, right? Is you learn from the past. I think it's in my example where about the Mountain Dew, mm-hmm. like those things don't matter. We still naturally do that. But it's good to reflect upon the past and have that retrospect, because then you learn from past mistakes. For your example, like if you missed a sales opportunity, you can reflect on that and be like, why did I miss that sales opportunity? So you can still look back. It's still beneficial. I think you can't dwell on the past, right? Yep. You don't ever want to dwell on the past, because then you're not moving forward.
Yep.
But if you don't acknowledge the past, then you're bound to repeat it. Right? Yep. They say history repeats itself, right?
Yes.
You don't want your negative history. And sometimes negative doesn't necessarily mean negative in the long run. It just seems negative at that point. But you don't want the negative history to repeat itself.
Absolutely.
I think that's more of it, right?
Yeah.
And the same, your point, it's like that's part of planning for the future, mm-hmm. is reflecting on the past. So a plan, or a failure to plan, is a plan to fail, right? If you don't have a plan set in place for A, B, and C, when A, B, and C, A, B, or C approaches presents itself as an opportunity, you're going to fail because you haven't planned for those things.
Absolutely. Because during stressful situations, when the rubber hits the road, we will never fall to our hopes and dreams of what we could be or could do. We always fall to what we've planned and prepared and trained for. And I'm sure you've seen this in your strongman competitions. Of some people think that it's going to be somewhat easy, so they plan and they prepare, but they don't really truly push themselves to really compete the way that they have, or the capability that they have to give to the competition.
No, and that's a really good point too, especially in different sports and athletics. Going back to the looking at the past, you want to look at how did you do previously in these things, right? Because if you don't, then you don't know how you're going to stack up in competition. And there's strategy that goes into it, right? You might know, if you don't look at the past and you just go into a competition or a game or whatever it is, and you don't know you suck at this one thing and you keep trying to do that one thing and you can't accomplish it, it's not going to benefit you for the entirety of the game or the competition, right? For example, I was terrible at overhead pressing. Now, that's because I have a really crappy shoulder that doesn't work. Working on it. But I was really bad at overhead pressing. But I knew that. So I didn't focus on overhead pressing. I focused on the things that I was okay at or good at, because I needed to excel in those things in order to make up ground for the thing I wasn't good at.
But in order for you to realize your flaws or what you were weak at or unable to do, did you rely solely on yourself, or did you rely on somebody else to help you and guide you and set you up and say, hey, you're really not this strong in this area, but you should focus on here to help that area?
Totally. I mean, I had a coach, right?
Yeah.
So the coach, we were like, we both know, hey, I suck at pressing. We're still going to do it. I have to maintain or try to get better at it, but we know we can't put 80% of our intention or effort or energy into the thing that I'm just not good at, right? We want it to at least not get worse, right? But we're not necessarily, I'm not going to be the best at that one thing. There's other things I can be the best at. So we put a little bit more energy into that. Yeah.
Well, and that using that energy in the right spot at the right time is perfect, right? So the one thing is that I'm really curious on when it talks to more professionals in their current situation, what would you rather spend your time on though? Practicing and preparing for that job promotion, practicing and preparing for opportunities that may or may never come, or sitting in your cubicle or sitting at your desk job or sitting in your car in traffic and wondering, man, if I would have went to college, I would have been way better. Because I have found myself in my military career where I've struggled with the fact of, if I would have applied myself just a tad bit more, I would have probably been an officer.
Sure.
I would have been able to make it more past the E7 role and possibly been a chief, and maybe not have done just 20 years, but would have done more than 20 years. And when I catch myself in that circle of, man, I wish I would have, could have, should have, I failed to realize where I'm at now because of those decisions that I made back then. Because I would not be here on this podcast with you if I was still in the military.
And we'll get into that more later in the episode, but there's the butterfly effect too, right? Had you made a different decision years ago, months ago, whatever it is, what is the trickle down effect of that moving forward? Would you be in the same position you are now? Would you not, right? One thing I wanted to touch on is like, there's different types of retrospect or like regret, basically, right? If you don't do something because of the fear to do it, it's a lot worse than making the wrong decision.
Absolutely.
Right. So if in your instance, you just didn't do anything, it's not that you weren't afraid to do so. You just maybe didn't make this decision or go that route.
Oh, to be honest, I was just lazy. Lazy's
probably just as regrettable as fearful. I don't know which one's better, but I mean, there's a big difference than making a decision and then realizing you made maybe not the decision that was the most beneficial, the one that you didn't want to make, later in life. Then I didn't make this decision because I was afraid of what was going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. And then the question is, what advice would you give your younger self if you could write a letter to your younger self and whatever time period in your life, how old would you be? And what would be the key advice that you would give yourself to help with that reflection?
It depends on what specific scenario we're talking about, right? What season of my life that I'm in, what chapter of my life that I'm in and whatnot. And I think we get into more on that later, and we'll go into more of that, what advice you could go back and give yourself, but it really depends on the season that you're in. And I think that's using that term season too,
Mhm.
I really believe in that because like you grow as an individual, right? So you have seasons and chapters that are in that season of your life, right? You go from the season of being a young kid in school, in high school, then you go in the season of establishing your college career or actual career. Seasons change and you have chapters within those seasons. So it depends on what season we're talking about. But yeah, we'll definitely get into that.
No,
for sure.
yeah, definitely. And the reason why is because preparing for this episode to make sure it's like hard hitting and the stats are there. I read it with a Harvard Business Review that 90% of adults have deep regret life decisions that we either A, don't never face, or B, we always face them, right? And out of that 90%, they say that 66% of those professionals, because of those regrets, fail to take that action step to put themselves vulnerable enough to go up for that promotion because they keep on telling themselves, I can't do it, or I'm not prepared, or I'm not the right person.
That's part of that fearfulness.
My buddy's applying for it. So if he's applying for it, I don't want to apply for it because he's more qualified. I think that's a bunch of bullcrap because when you think about it, you never know until you know, right? And along with the Harvard Business Review, a Stanford study came out and said that if we just spend 15 minutes a day giving just a quick self-reflection of not too far back, but just back far enough of when we did not make that one decision, that we would increase our performance by 23%, not just in a month, a year, or a week, but just in 10 days, if we give ourselves that 15 minutes of self-reflection. Because not only do we give ourselves that self-reflection, we give ourselves that ability to give ourselves self-affirmation. Because just because you didn't take a decision to do something doesn't mean it's always going to end up bad. It could be a great time not to do something. Kind of like scammers, right? If scammers are calling you and telling you, hey, I got $50,000 I'm going to give you, but you got to give me $100K and I'll give you $50K back. The decision is obviously not to go with that. But some people are like, well, if I give you $50K and I get $100K, that's a hell of a deal.
That's the whole Nigerian prince scam, right? But in the new world.
Yeah. And he's probably sitting in his hut in Nigeria with the thousands and millions and billions of dollars just waiting for Americans to take it.
It's insane how many people actually fall for that. Yeah. Where I'm from, back in Vail, we had just down the street from us, this older gal that fell for one of those scams and lost hundreds of thousands of dollars to someone in Nigeria or something like that. Yeah. It's crazy that works. Real quick, I wanted to touch on, I can't believe that it's only 90%, by the way, of adults that have regret.
No,
I would assume so much higher, right? Yeah. I mean, I have regret. Yeah. Right? Do you have, I'm sure you've got a couple major regrets.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah. You think, how many birthdays and Christmases have I missed being in Iraq and Afghanistan, right?
Totally.
But those regrets, and that, I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because those regrets, because I was asked today, what was the one thing that you liked and hated being in the military? Well, I liked what I did. I loved wearing the uniform. I loved wearing the American flag on my right arm. I absolutely loved it. What I hated was missing birthdays, Christmases, and all that. Yeah. My first 3 kids, I've missed the first year to 2 years of their lives. And I missed all the firsts. And then my 4th kid, I never deployed, never did anything because we landed here in Idaho. And what ended up happening was those regrets of what I missed with my kids, my first 3 kids, I was like, I'm not going to miss that with my 4th kid. So I think it made me a little bit more, it gave me a lot more fuel to be.
Do you think you're overcompensating with the 4th one?
Absolutely.
Overdoing it?
Overdoing it.
Did you guys do a petting zoo for him? Or was that the other one?
That was for that was for my daughter. Yeah, Sadie. Yeah. We did a petting zoo for her, but I overcompensate with my 4th, my little dude, Calvin, because, he's my dude. And now I finally get the first and people are like, you have 3 other kids. Why are you so excited? I'm like, this is the first time I've ever, kids ever called my name because he needed me to wipe his butt.
Yeah. It's such, not having kids, that's such a strange thing to get excited about.
Right?
Yeah.
To get called and say, I can wipe my own ass.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad you can, dude.
That's cool. So you were, was it last week you were in South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
God. Last, whatever it was.
That was a great trip. Good opportunity. And it goes into this whole episode too about reflecting and advice and all that, because the South Carolina trip happened because I refused to accept no, and I refused to worry that I haven't done what I was offered to do. And what I did in South Carolina with a company called The Ideal Life, which is a great coaching marketing company, what they ended up doing was they brought me in for a day and a half and they let me record 3 course contents. So it ended up being like 27 videos, 8 promos, 4 expert corners, and 1 podcast down there as well.
That's so
in
much.
a day and a half. But it was a blast. Like I was like, oh, this is cool with professional photographers, videographers. And it was absolutely amazing. And the best part about it, and I'll tell you this story, I was on the way back. I had a 4-hour delay in Nashville. And in Nashville, I'm sitting at a table by myself and in the food court, and these 3 random people just show up at my table and they're like, hey, can we sit here? And I'm like, absolutely. I was like, but be warned, I'm a chatty Cathy and I'm probably going to talk to you. And they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're listening on every bit of their conversation.
On every bit, right? Because
that's what you do.
I'm a people person, right? I'm a chatty Cathy. So what I did was I was ear hustling very professionally. So not trying to be intrusive, but I was ear hustling. And I heard them say certain words about the industry of I'm in, you know, I think we need an executive coach. I think we need alignment with our companies. I think we need to do this in order to scale to this point, but we really need to find someone that matches our energy and our output and just our outlook, right? And so at that time, I was having an internal conversation with myself, asking, should I interrupt them and inject myself into their conversation, or should I just let them be and just sit here and just be like, no, be respectful?
And you were on your way back or to Utah or whatever it was, we were talking about that, and I was like, you absolutely did, right? Like, I hope you didn't not interject yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely did.
Yeah.
I told my inner self that told me not to interject, to shut the hell up.
You have to.
And I was like, hey, took out my earbud and I was like, hey, not to be rude, but to be rude. I was ear hustling and you said a couple key words like executive coach, alignment and all this. I can help you. 45 minutes later, the conversation connected with them. It turns out those 3 guys have companies in Los Angeles, and I've been on Zoom meetings and phone calls with them, and they're going to connect me with the right people. And they're like, we really like your high energy, your positive outlook, and we think that you'll be amazing, especially in the veteran space, to help the veterans with their transition, with their mental health. And I'm like, heck yeah. But those conversations have happened because I didn't dwell too much on my decisions not to make that choice in the past and just say, screw it. Because at the end of the day, they're going to ignore me and be like, who the hell is this guy? Or B, it's going to do what it did.
That's what's the worst they can say is like, no, we don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Cool. Then you don't have a regret. It's like, just like we were talking about before. Like if you didn't say something, you start kicking yourself, you're wondering like, was that an opportunity I missed?
Yeah.
Which obviously you didn't. So that's
which
great.
I'm really glad that I didn't miss that opportunity. And with that opportunity that I didn't miss, I want to know, what did you miss while you were in Oregon on your trip?
What I miss about being in Oregon or what I miss about being here?
Both.
So I love Oregon as like a state, as like the geography of Oregon and everything. It is probably one of my absolute favorite states. There's other things I don't like about it, right? Obviously, but I love it. So every year about this time, end of April or so, me and my wife like to go on a vacation. It's her birthday. Plus, it's been, 4 months or so since holidays. We're both burnt out. We're both needing some time off. So this is the 2nd year in a row where we've gone through Oregon. We usually go up so we started in Bend this time, which is nice because we always go to the coast. And so that's about like a 7 or 8 hour drive. Bend is like a 4.5 hour drive or 5 hour drive. So it cuts that almost in half. Really nice. Bend's really cool because it's got, I don't know if you know this, I don't know if it still is or not, but it used to be the per capita, it had the most breweries in their city than any other city in the nation.
Breweries?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And it has amazing breweries. If you ever go, my favorite is called Monkless. It's a Belgian brewery. Mm-hmm. They have incredible schnitzels and poutine. I love poutine. It's probably the best thing the Canadians have ever done is make poutine, but poutine is amazing. And then we went to this restaurant for her birthday. It was called Hawkeye and Huckleberry. There's a chef that's on like the Food Network and stuff like that. And it's one of his restaurants. Fantastic. It was one of the best steaks I've ever had. I can't remember what we had for appetizer. Oh, we had bone marrow. Bone marrow. I know your baby palate can't handle it, but
it's a sensitive palate and it's a real thing, right? It's a real thing.
It's really good. So it's like basically you cut a bone in half, like a femur of a cow or something like that. They roast it. You take out the marrow inside, spread it on a baguette or toast or something like that. It's so good. We had that and oysters.
Okay.
Yeah, like cooked oysters. Oysters rock.
I'm not an oyster fan.
I'm not either.
I'm not a seafood fan.
I'm not either. These were okay. It's the first time I've had them cooked, so they were okay. I'm not a big oyster fan. My wife loved it. So then we went to the coast and then just kind of hung out, man. I'm very much like I need the ocean.
Yeah.
Once a year, at least, sort of thing. It helps me just kind of reset. Just
well, you picked a great place to call home if you need the ocean, being landlocked in Idaho.
I know. Idaho's got everything except for the ocean. That's like but it's not that far of a drive.
That's true.
It's like a 7-hour drive. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. The Oregon coast have you ever been to the Oregon coast?
I have. Absolutely beautiful. The Goonies house. That area. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And the Tillamook factory. So Tillamook in our house, legit. We call Tillamook cheese rich people cheese.
Yeah.
Because it is super expensive but it is super good. It's almost as good as that government cheese back in the day. Oh.
The fake cheese?
Have you ever had the government cheese?
I don't think so.
You never been poor enough to have government cheese? Stand in line.
Had it like from like the food pantries and stuff?
Yeah. Like you stand in line and they just hand you this like cardboard block of cheese wrapped in aluminum foil.
I thought it was just like standard cheese from a grocery store.
No, government cheese is probably the best cheese you can possibly get. It probably has a bunch of like preservatives in it. And that's probably what makes it really good. But it's like the best, like probably the best cheese that you can get. But
interesting.
We used to get it when I was little.
Yeah, we stayed at Lincoln City, which is like right in the middle of the coastline. Because when I'm on the coast, I like to travel north and south, right? So we go up to Tillamook. There's actually, have you ever had Tillamook jerky?
Yes.
They have the jerky outlet store right next to it.
Oh, cool.
No. So if you're coming from that direction, it's before you get to the cheese factory. It's close to the cheese factory. So we always stock up on jerky. We get some, I love ice cream is one of my favorite things. And fresh Tillamook ice cream, there's nothing better.
No,
love it.
Well, I haven't had the fresh Tillamook, but Tillamook ice cream in the stores is absolutely amazing.
As good as it is from a carton, it's that much better from the actual store.
That's awesome.
It's really cool. But yeah, we do that and then just kind of cruise up and down. Yeah.
That's cool.
Hit a couple casinos while I'm there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand why there's not any casinos around us, to be honest with you. The closest one is out there in over there by Idaho Falls. I forgot what Fort.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, Fort Hall or something.
Oh.
There's a reservation over there and they got that.
Is that closer than Jackpot?
Yes. Well, it's Idaho Falls. So
that's
Pocatello?
Oh, okay.
Outside of Pocatello?
Huh.
So 3-4 hours away. I don't know how far Jackpot's
is. About 4 hours.
So about the same.
Jackpot is like an hour south of Twin Falls.
Oh, then you can go to Wild Horse in Pendleton. Pendleton's 3 hours.
I thought that was about 4 hours.
Three and a half, yeah.
The nice thing about Jackpot, though, you get free alcohol, free drinks.
Because it's Nevada.
Yes, exactly.
So I've never been there. I want to go because I love craps.
I love craps too. I'm not good. I love blackjack because I'm good at blackjack. Mm-hmm. Usually what I'll do is I'll take a little bankroll, build it up in blackjack, go to the craps or roulette table, and then lose it all, and then start the process.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. I like to go to the craps to talk to people and then get told to shut up while they're rolling dice. And I know not to ask the right questions, what's a 7, what's 11 and all that, but I like to learn and see the interactions.
Dude, people have like too many hiccups when it comes to that stuff, the superstitions.
Oh yeah. And sometimes they get ruthless about it too. But it's funny. It's so funny though, because you can tell like the mood of a table changes when a female shows up to the table. It
not only just a female, just a person who's a novice.
Yeah.
I've noticed that too with blackjack. So one time I was actually in Jackpot down there playing blackjack, and I was sitting at this table, and this guy walks up, and it was me, him, and like another guy playing blackjack. I didn't know anything about it. He seemed like a cool guy. We're playing, and the one kid, so it was me in the middle, this guy to my right, and then this kid to my left. And this kid and his buddy behind him, they were like kind of whispering at each other and looking back and forth. And then eventually he goes, "Hey, are you, what's his name? Zabransky." Because are you, whatever his first name is, Zabransky? Because he was wearing his, do you know who that is?
Mm-mm.
So when BSU beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl during the statue, you remember the Statue of Liberty play?
Yeah.
That was Zabransky.
Oh.
Yeah.
The quarterback?
The quarterback.
Oh, crap. Okay.
So he's sitting right next to me. I had no idea who he was.
That's awesome.
But he's wearing, it's kind of weird because he's wearing his Fiesta Bowl ring.
Yeah.
And this is like 10 years later. It's kind of, I don't know. I thought it was a little weird, but he was a cool guy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
I was asking him too, because I guess he was living in Houston. He got drafted by the Texans only to like their practice squad, but then set up shop in Houston, and then just had recently moved back to Idaho when I met him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I like going to the casinos and seeing that stuff. But the one thing that I really find interesting is when you walk around the casinos and especially when they have those slot tourneys, everyone around there seems like they're just dead to the world, and they're just bum, 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 bum. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, what else is our society really like, bum, 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 like just hitting the button on?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is like, you look at like what's going on right now with like Doge, and why so many people are like fighting the Doge, right? Is it because we're so used to just hitting the button and getting amount of money, hitting the button and getting food, hitting the button and getting soda, hitting the button and getting all that stuff?
Yeah. Speaking of which, you know what EBT and SNAP is, right?
Yes.
So I was listening to a podcast recently. I can't remember who, it's the Secretary of, not Interior, anyway, agriculture, whatever it is. And she was talking about the numbers and statistics. So there's the MAHA movement, right? Make America Healthy Again, right?
Yep.
And so they're really trying to crack down on overly processed foods, sugar and stuff, which I think is great.
Yeah.
I think there's room for it. It's nice to have your treats and everything, but in moderation. And what they found was, so do you know how much money the SNAP program commands each year in America?
I'd probably say 500 mil.
It is $112 billion a year.
Holy good night.
So it is, I can't remember. I think it's 1 point something % of our entire budget for the nation is the SNAP program.
Holy cow.
Which that's fine if people need assistance, food assistance, but they found there's a tremendous amount of fraud, unfair use. People sell their SNAP benefits to other people and stuff like that.
Wait, do they sell it for more than what it's worth?
I don't think so.
So it's just like a 1-for-1?
No, what I've seen before, like if they have $50 on a SNAP card or a food stamp card, they'll sell it for $25 cash, right? Because then they can take the cash and go buy booze or drugs or whatever, or something else, but they'll sell it like that. I've seen that happen before. But on that, out of that $112 billion, guess how much of that is spent on sugary drinks a year?
So 112, I would say probably 12.
It's 10. It's like 10.8 or something like that. So that's a lot. As American people, it's a 0.1% of our entire budget is spent on soda alone.
That's crazy.
Which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're talking trillions of dollars, 0.1% is a lot.
Yeah.
$10 billion on soda? Are you kidding me?
Well, it makes sense why Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all them are amazing, right?
I mean,
so big.
Yeah.
Although I've noticed something in Coke has changed, and the formula it's different. I used to love Coke, but now I'm more into like
they changed. I know they changed their sweetener, I think.
Oh, okay. Because I'm more into that
was years ago.
Canada Dry and the ginger ale and stuff now.
But back to the EBT, it is something like over 80% of EBT and SNAP cards are used on highly processed foods.
Well, then that makes sense why we need the MAHA movement, right?
Yeah.
Man,
which again, I'm not for. I like, if there's food scarcity, like there should be something done about it, right? You should help people out, but it should be limited to what type of food they can eat or the amount, like a percentage or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, if there's a mother of 5 that has 5 kids, they need quick food, some sandwiches or Lunchables. Well, that's fine, but in moderation.
It's funny that you wanted to talk about the EBT today and the food, like purchases and stuff. Cause yesterday I was on my way home and I noticed, or I was watching a video on X, and Jordan Peterson was talking about how the food pyramid was a scam. And it was a scam by the Department of Agriculture to get people to eat more grains, even though that the people that were like advocates for the farmers and for the grain fields and all that back in the day, they even said, if you guys are telling people to eat 7 to 10 servings a day of grains, you're going to cause an obesity epidemic in the future.
It was all the subsidies.
Yeah.
Yep.
But subsidies for what? For the farmers
do you know why we use corn so much? So corn syrup, corn's in everything. Do you know why?
No. Well,
corn was a failing produce back in the I can't remember how long ago it was a failing produce. Okay. So corn was not doing well in the United States. So in order to keep the corn farmers afloat, they started making these programs to where it got people into more corn syrup, corn byproducts. They started using a lot more
ethanol,
corn.
All that.
Yep. And that was to keep the corn farmers going. That's why.
Oh, man.
I can't remember when that was. I don't know if that was like the 40s, 50s or something like that. That was decades ago, but that's why.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now I wonder, when you talk about being subsidized and all that with this Doge and the way the government's shifting, what is so bad about us figuring out who and why are we subsidizing
I don't know.
a lot of people, right?
I don't know, man.
Because when you look at why are we subsidizing people? Why do we subsidize huge billion-dollar companies and then we pick and choose what companies we want to hate, we want to protest, we want to hate certain people who are rich and famous, but not hate the same person who has the same amount of money, but they just have a different ideology that they believe in, right?
I am so not necessarily government subsidies. It depends on what it is, but like donors, like government donors for campaigning and stuff like that. I'm so far against that. That's just legal bribing.
Oh yeah,
that's all it is.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Subsidies for the most part is because of that too.
Oh, absolutely. And the one thing that like I don't know if you saw today, but they just announced the new deal with us in the UK.
I didn't.
And the new deal with the UK is going to open up, I think, like $6 billion I think it's $6 billion worth of trade between us and UK, and allow our products to enter the UK that has never been.
Is it agriculture or
agriculture,
just open
chemicals, agriculture, chemicals, machinery. They just announced, I saw right before we started rolling today, Bowen is going to be able to sell like $60 million worth of products the first time ever into the UK.
It's got to be more than that, though.
But you're probably right. It's probably 60 billion or something. Yeah. But the thing is like last night on all the news channels, everyone was making fun of President Trump and his team because they were like, well, I thought he was Mr. Art of the Deal, but he hasn't created a deal at all. And then they're like, holy crap.
They'll start coming.
Well, the first one's UK.
Yeah.
And have you ever been to Europe? You go to Europe, you won't see anything American. Like you'll hardly see any American products that are actually through and through American. Like you'll see a McDonald's over there, but
it's Coke or something.
Yeah, but it'll be British. It'll be more of a British asset. And the idea of this opening up that market is just better for the farmers, which then in turn brings more money back to us, and then in turn helps us drive down our debt. But things might cost a little bit more. But if our dollar goes a little bit further, then I'm all about it.
Well, you know what's funny is that when Biden was in office and stuff like that, the Democrats are very much like, oh, the stock market, we're not stock market people. We don't care about the stock market.
Yeah.
And as soon as Trump takes over, the stock market starts to go down because of tariffs. They're like, oh, he's killing the stock market. Oh, yeah. And then the stock market starts to go back up. They're like, we don't care about it again. So it's like, come on, man. Like you can't have it both ways.
Yeah. Oh, but they think that they can, right?
Yeah. And they
definitely they try to have it both ways and all that stuff. And speaking of the whole both ways type of thing, so you are a massage therapist, so you're in the process of like helping people get more aligned with their attunement of their body, right? And so what are these new things that you're rolling out in your company?
So we, a friend of mine who's also another massage therapist, we developed a curriculum together. And the reason we did that because we're both very much in the deep tissue sports recovery rehab type soft tissue workers, right? And so what we did was we found there's a need for it. Nobody comes out of massage school. No, they just don't teach this stuff in school. They dabble on it for maybe a day or so. Out of like a 9-month program, you might get 6 hours worth of this in the program, right? So what we did, we saw a hole and we're filling that hole. And so we've been developing it since February, right? Now we're in beginning of May, and we just started rolling it out this last weekend. So on Sunday, we presented the first half. It's a 2-day course, but we presented the first half on Sunday. Had a group. There's 3 people in the group, one of which is her employee, and then 2 are my future employees. So they're going through it. That's going to be part of mine and her both onboarding process is to go through this curriculum. But it went really well. So like the first part is it was a lot to do with the theory and science behind what we do. So we talked about like what's the difference between sports massage and regular massage. Yeah. We talked about the difference of communication in sports massage versus standard. Because in standard, people think you go to a place, you chill out, you just zone out for an hour, hour and a half, and that's it. In sports, there's a lot of communication. There's a lot of communication of, okay, how's this feel? How's that feel? Okay, we need to get up and do this. We need to get down and do that. Let's do this assessment. Let's do that assessment. How does that feel? Move there, right? So there's a lot of different communication. We did a lot of science. I did an entire section on like recovery myths. Have you ever heard of RICE? You know what RICE is?
No.
RICE is rest, ice, compression, and elevate.
Okay.
Right. So that's a technique people have used for it was developed in the 70s, and it was quickly debunked in like the early 2000s by the same guy who developed it. He's like, don't use this. I'm wrong. I was wrong. Right. And the reason is because of ice. So when you have an injury, most people say, go ahead and ice it, right? You ever heard of that? You ever done that?
Yeah.
Do you know why that's bad?
No, I thought it was good because it would compress the skin and the blood vessels. And
Exactly. It compresses it. So what ice does is you have your blood vessels, right? And if think about it like a hose, right? Like a water hose. If you apply ice, you have vasoconstriction. Essentially, the hose gets smaller. So if the water is your blood, you're not getting enough blood to that area. So let's say you roll your ankle. Okay, your ankle swells up, you have an ankle injury, and now you constrict it. You're going to slow down the healing process. You also flush out inflammation. And inflammation is this big trigger word for a lot of people. Inflammation is not inherently bad. Too much can be, in the wrong spots. But when you have an injury, you want inflammation. Think of inflammation as a general contractor. So if you have a general contractor has a project and they have their subcontractors like a painter, and they go through at the end and they look at this, and this, and that's wrong, this needs fixed. What do? They take blue tape and they mark it all, right? Inflammation is the same way. It says, hey, we need resources here. This needs to be dealt with. This needs to be healed. That's what ice negates.
Okay.
It slows that down. When you injure something, you actually want to introduce movement, tolerable movement within hours, right? As much as you possibly can. So for example, again, if you roll the ankle and it's swollen, you can't walk on it. Cool. Sit down and do some ankle circles. Move that ankle, because the more you move it, the more you're going to introduce new blood flow, new nutrients and stuff like that.
So what are you going to do with the people that are watching this or listening to this and was like, everything you just said about rice is completely false, because I live by rice and inflammation is horrible. Take care.
Yeah.
Don't listen to them and all that, right? Because there's going to be people
do some research.
Do some research. There you go.
It's not hard.
Right?
It's all over the place. Like if you are up to date on any recovery science, ice is seldomly used. Like a lot of people, the big thing now is ice baths, the cold water submersion and stuff like that. It's overdone. So a lot of people use it like post-workout. If you use it post-workout, when you work out and you're straining your muscles, the reason muscles get bigger and stronger is because you have micro traumas. You have small little tears in the muscle. The body says, hey, heal this. And we weren't prepared for what happened. So if you were doing a weightlifting session, you're trying to get stronger. You're getting stronger because that's an adaptation, right? It means the muscles weren't prepared for what you lifted. They need to get stronger to be prepared next time. Yeah. That's what the body's trying to do. It's trying to get better and adapt to be ready for the next time. If you go do the ice bath, you flush out all the inflammation, you don't adapt. You stay where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the body's not going to heal that.
So you're working for nothing.
Yeah.
You're working just the work.
Yeah. You'll still adapt a little bit, but it's much, much slower. Much
so
less efficient.
All that time I've been recording myself in the gym has been worthless.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
The gym is the burger joint down the house.
Yeah. I was going to say, what gym are you talking about? Yeah.
No reason to be rude on this episode,
so
right?
What's really cool though is one of the people in the class I just hired on Monday too. So cool. I finally got another employee.
So what is your main goal on this class? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Eventually, so use it for my business, for Top Tier's onboarding process, right? And then once we've got it to the point where we feel like it's good enough to give to people outside of my own company and her company, we're going to start selling it as like CUs and stuff. And then hopefully I can travel, go to different places, different conventions, and teach that to other therapists.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome when we think outside the box of how we can make not only ourselves better, but other people better.
Yep.
Right. And when we think about that, it goes back to like the opportunities of you figuring out, hey, you need to fill a need, right? You see a need, you fill a need. It's the same thing in this mindset realm and arena that I'm working in, is like, how do we get people to be the ideal self? Yes. How do we get people to live their ideal life? And the best way to do it is you got to challenge people physically, but challenge people mentally to believe in their capabilities. Stop listening to the naysayers. Earlier this week, I wrote something because it really resonated with me on LinkedIn about like, what do you do when you have self-doubt? Who do you turn to? And what are your following actions to that, right? And one of the questions that I revealed on that, to be vulnerable and transparent with the audience, was that I have self-doubt on my next couple events that I'm doing. I had this huge event next week in Salt Lake City. It's the Ideal Life Leadership Summit. It's going to be amazing. It's in a venue that can hold 330, right? And we looked at the numbers and we've only sold like 75, 80 tickets, but I verbally have committed. People have verbally committed to me at least 120 to 130, right? Verbally, but they haven't paid. And I'm like, so then the self-doubt came into the area of my head and I'm like, what happens if nobody shows, right? what happens if this is all for nothing? And the reason why I'm like so stressed out about it a little bit is I have like people coming to the event that are trying to see my capability. And if this fails, does that give them the idea that I can't step up to the challenge, that I'm not ready to put on an event this big? Because the whole idea of my journey in the mindset realm and helping people out, it isn't for my self financial gain. It's I truly believe in the purpose and my mission to fill the gap of where we are missing on the human skills of believing in ourselves, but believing in a community of an ecosystem style, right? And so I love pushing the idea of let's build an ecosystem of different industries, bring them together and figure out how can we help the next person? How can we help our neighbors succeed in their ways? So with you talking about like your training and your teachings and stuff, that's great because you're exposing a whole different aspect of your industry. With my idea, with like an ideal leader style mindset, it's revealing a different area of executive understanding. Even if you're not in an executive role, we want to be better tomorrow than we were today. We just need to have a roadmap
right?
to do it.
Yeah. And it goes back to the training too. Yeah, exactly. I want, especially my industry, like I want my industry to be better. I want people that are in the industry to be better, especially newer therapists in the industry. Yeah. Like I want to give them the tools to be better because a lot of times you don't get that unless you go seek it out. Yeah. Right. Same thing. You have to go seek out that stuff. Yeah. Well, and a lot of people expect stuff to be handed to them or show up at their door. And it's like, no, man, it's not going to work. You got to go out because no one's going to care more about you than you care about yourself. Yep. And if you don't value yourself or value what you bring to society, it's like, well, then let's get you there. Yep. Physically, mentally, let's figure out how to get you there. And if you're going to get nobody's going to care if you succeed or fail except for you and your family.
Absolutely.
You and yours.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's what I found out. As soon as I wrote it and I published it and I put it out there in the interwebs, I was like, no one's really going to care about this. Yeah. Right.
What's really cool about that though is like, it's your first time. Like it's this event's first time. Right. So kind of going back to the hindsight stuff, a lot of people that may be verbally committed that won't show up because if you have that many that verbally committed that haven't paid yet, they're not all going to show up. Yeah. Right. Some probably will, but they're going to miss out. It's your job and your responsibility to make sure they regret not going.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the people that are going to be there, they're going to be like, oh my God, the value for this was immense, right? Oh, I can't believe it was only blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It should have been 12 times more. Yeah. Well, and those people will be like, damn, I missed out.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going in there in mindset too. If one person shows up, we're running through the whole thing. And I'm going to treat that one person like we just filled out the whole stadium and just completely do my high energy executive coach ways and definitely just not sell them, but just give them a hell of an experience from the moment they park their car to the moment they leave the parking lot. Just believing in themselves. It's an interactive networking upside down type of idea that I want to bring to, I'm doing it in Utah first because I have the venue and all that, but this is just a stepping stone and I want to bring it here to Boise and really build on what Idaho is about. Right. And every area, every community is about the same thing. They want to take care of each other. They want to grow stuff organically. But a lot of people are like, let's do this, but no one has the gall to do it. Or if they do, they don't want to build a team in order to help them.
And I think that's great too, is getting back to the community, right? Is getting back to that point where like your city, your town, your state, whatever that's your community. And nobody cares about their community anymore, at least not enough, right? Your tribe, your community, whatever. That's really cool. Yeah. So I wanted to bring up real quick, we have some stuff in front of the laptops here.
Yes.
Right. So we got our first official sponsor.
Yes.
That's not like our business.
Absolutely.
So our first official sponsor, which is the Beastly Gents hair products. Yes. Right. So that is actually my barber. That's his own products that he's made and developed and everything. So it's pomades, beard waxes, beard balms, hair pomades, beard washes. I've been using this stuff for years now. That's why I'm so pretty.
Well, it's great that you brought that in.
That's why he's not yet. He's about to start using it.
I got a baby beard, all right? I got a baby beard. It's been 20 years of shaving every single day, and now I'm able to grow it, but I can only grow it 3 days, and then I have to trim it. But I've been looking for a great product to soften the beard, smell good. I love the pomade to do the hair, to do the little comb over. And I tried this stuff out, and one, it smells amazing.
It's great.
It feels
the scents are
like
awesome.
it feels very it moisturizes the skin. You're still looking manly, but you got that soft skin. And then the hair product, it stays. It looks good. It doesn't have like that weird greasy shine or feel to it, and it just feels natural. So it's amazing.
I can see it because you put some in your beard before we started. Yeah. You can see like the beard just looks softer and better.
Yes, you can. Yes,
like
you can.
You can visibly see it. It's great stuff. So that's beastlygents.com.
Beastlygents.com.
Yep, and so that's a local Napa Caldwell guy.
Awesome. And what's the owner's name?
His name's Carlo.
Yeah. Awesome.
Don't ask me to pronounce his last name.
So don't hold it against him, Carlo, but we appreciate beastlygents.com. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely go on to it.
So did you see today too? We got a new Pope.
Yeah, first American Pope ever.
USA.
USA. Wow, that's the first. That's going to be amazing how this rolls out with American in the Catholic.
What's his name again?
Pope Leo is the one.
Leo the 14th.
Leo the 14th, but I think it's like Pope something Provost. He's from Chicago, and
he's from Chicago.
I want to say before all this happened,
Francis Provost.
Francis Provost. He was the wild horse. They thought it could be him, but they were really thinking it was going to be a cardinal from Africa.
That's what I'd heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought he was the front runner.
Okay,
but I'm not Catholic. But it's cool that there's a new Pope. I mean, that's cool. I always think of when they do the Pope. You ever see the movie Euro Trip?
Yeah.
When the guy wears the Pope hat and he's like, "Oh, the roof's on fire," and he lights the Pope hat on fire.
Yep. Yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah, that was a great movie
back in the day.
Yeah, it's because Scotty doesn't know.
Yeah,
Scotty doesn't know.
That was such an underrated movie.
Oh yeah, Matt Damon's.
By the way,
what's the greatest
best movie song ever?
Oh yeah,
easily.
Oh yeah,
like not a real song that was used in the movie, but a song that was made in the movie. Yeah. Best movie song ever.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny because our generation, you just put on the beat of that, and everyone's already talking about Fiona, and Scotty doesn't know, and
it's
everyone
like Stacey's
knows.
Mom. Everyone knows.
Everyone.
Yeah, everyone knows. Yeah.
No, it's awesome. Yeah. So it's great about like Scotty doesn't know and doing the Euro trip and stuff, because when we showed up today, we were prepared to start right on time and get ready to go. And what happened when we showed up to today's studio?
We were missing equipment that we didn't know we were missing. Yeah. So with good old redneck ingenuity, we figured it out. We got some just little pieces of paper over our lights, and
all because Justin thought on his feet. So we appreciate Justin too. Yeah,
makes us look pretty.
Not like a 5 o'clock shadow and stuff. So yeah, it was awesome.
I want to take a quick moment to thank each and every one of you for listening to the Synergy Code podcast. If you could do us a small favor and comment, like, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. As always, we're going to try our best to bring you engaging and entertaining content. So thank you, and let's get back to the episode.
All right. So advice to your younger self, advice to yourself yesterday to set yourself up for tomorrow. So what would you tell yourself if you could in order to set yourself up for success?
So this is kind of going back to what we talked about earlier. So it depends what we're talking about, right? Or what era, what season you're in. So for me, like I would, like if you could go back in time, would you give yourself advice? Mm-hmm. Right? I don't know if I would, right? And it again depends on the season. But there's many missed opportunities that I think I missed.
Yep.
For example, one I'll be kind of specific on is I started my company last year. So I've only been doing this for a year and a half on my own. I wish I would have went back and told myself to start sooner. And then I wish when I started, I would have just went all in. I just dipped my toes in to start with, right? I wish I would just head first, dove straight in there. I wish I would have went back and said that to myself.
Yeah.
Now, would I have listened to myself? Yeah. Who knows? That's a different story, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Like if you like, do you have something years ago, like 10 years ago? What would you have told yourself? I guess you would have been in the military.
Yeah, I would have been in the military. We were stationed at Hill Air Force Base outside of Salt Lake City. I was on my way this time 10 years ago. Actually, I was on my way to Kunsan, South Korea, for the second time. I would give my advice to make it more of a intentional mission to connect with my dad and my wife and my kids at that time with me gone. And the reason why is because So I spent a year in Korea and I absolutely loved it. Right. It's one of the few bases in the Air Force that you can go to in a non-combat area that you can you become closer to the people that you're there with, because you guys are all embracing the suck. But it's like you meet your brothers and sisters that you always talk to. In 2015, I met a group of guys I never thought I would be friends with. We're completely different in everything, but we get along so well because we like toxicity of pushing each other in a toxic way, right? And this group, and we still talk about it today, and we talk every single day. But the reason why I would be more intentional, especially with my family and with this group of my brothers from the Kunsan crew, is that the time that I missed out being over there, they helped me make up for it by being more connected with me and building me up and becoming my brothers. But 2 years later, I lost my dad. And knowing that now, I could have turned down those orders. I could have denied them, and I could have went somewhere else that put me closer to my dad. But at that time, I didn't know, obviously, because I was so excited because from Korea, I had the opportunity to go to Germany. And going to Germany has always been a thing between me and my dad that we've always talked about. And he was supposed to come and visit 3 or 4 months after he died, right? And the day that he died was actually, he was a huge Trump supporter. He went to the rally up in Spokane, and he actually died January 19th, 2017. So he died the day before Trump was inaugurated by a massive heart attack. Yeah, so he never got to witness it. But when I catch myself doing that, hey, can I go back and give myself advice? I don't know if I would. And the reason why is because I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in Idaho. I would have never met you. I would have never had this opportunity. I definitely wouldn't have been able to have the impact I think I'm about to have with the people.
Let's say even if you did, would you have listened? Would yourself 10 years ago, would you have listened to yourself from today?
Absolutely not. I would have called you crazy. And one, I would have said, well, my dad's going to live forever. The guys I met in Korea, they're a bunch of riffraff. I don't like them. We're not going to get along. And all that great fun stuff. But it goes back to that, right? So 2 years removed from Korea, when my dad died, this group of guys, they rallied together and they bought me a memorable shadow box because my dad was a huge Minnesota Vikings fan, with last name Johnson, a Minnesota Vikings jersey, and a shadow box Johnson and 17, because that's the year he died. And then they wrote a little plaque that said, gone but not forgotten. Thank you for the memories and all of that. And that motion, that part right there, I think brought me closer to those group of guys, but also brought me closer to the idea that you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know what path that's going to set you on. And because of that, because of their action, their generosity, because they didn't have to do that, because that thing cost probably $600. They didn't have to do that, but it showed me that, one, there are great people out there. You never know who you're going to meet. And two, we're on this path for a reason, and who we come in contact with is going to affect not only us, but them plus two.
Well, and then even with those people where you say you guys went through, hell and back and everything together, it's like trauma creates bonds, right? Trauma creates character. Like people today, they talk about trauma. Trauma is such a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Like you took trauma and now you have a band of brothers and sisters that you'll have forever. Yeah. Right. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think for me, like 10 years ago, actually, let's see, what year is this? 2025. 25, so 2017, I would, 10 years ago, I wish I would have went back in time. I don't know if I would have listened. Yeah. Right. When I'm, 30 or 25, 26 years old, I don't know if I would have listened, but I wish I would have told myself, hey, what you're doing now is dead end. It sucks. You need to do something else. Yeah. Because I was working for a college campus running security. Yeah. It was a dead end career, but I was comfortable with it. Yeah. Because I was out, partying, having fun, working at a bar, all the things that you do when you're in your early 20s. I wish I would have said, there's more to it. You can be better than this. You can go on and do something different. Yeah. I think I would have, who knows where I would have been with my career. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like we talked about, if I would have done that 10 years ago and not went the path that I went, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I probably wouldn't be in Idaho. Who knows? Who knows where I'd be? Yeah. Absolutely. So it's that butterfly effect that, you change one thing in the past is the whole if you go back in time and visit the dinosaurs and you step on a butterfly and it's like, did you just kill your great grandmother or something? You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know if I would listen, but that's one of those things where I guess I'm more curious to see what would have happened.
Yeah.
I wish you could go back in time and change the course of history and see what would have happened.
Yeah. I don't think I would have changed. I think if I would have went back, I don't think I would have changed it, because like we've already hit the nail on the head, is we're here for a reason because of our decisions in the past. But what I think I would have done is I would have gave myself advice in the aspect of, you got this, don't worry. Things are happening for a reason to set you up better. And it's about like not fixating on the fact of going to the past to change it, but using your past to change your future. What you've learned, your scrapes, your bumps, your bruises, your scar tissue, they're there for you, with you for a reason, because it tells your story. If we were able to have a mulligan on everything we did, how boring would our stories be?
Life would be so boring.
Right?
Although, I mean, there's a couple things, like I've got a couple injuries that I wish I could take a mulligan on, right? I've got a couple surgeries, and it's like, would I have changed things? Definitely. If I could go back in time and tell me, hey, if you do this, like this car wreck's going to happen, the surgery's going to happen, I probably would still change that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that would have a trickle effect down the road.
Yeah.
But I would probably still change that.
Yeah. Well, and understanding that is good, because it keeps you humble. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you in present. And what also really helps you is wanting to put stuff into action, wanting to implement certain things just to kind of test the waters and see how does it fit in your day-to-day operations, right? So my biggest challenge for you guys listening and for you guys on the video is 3-3-3 legacy challenge, right? And what it is we want to challenge you guys to reflect on your current status and reflect in the past for 3 minutes. Write it down. Challenge yourself to really think genuinely on your reflection. And then we want you to, what would you change differently? What could you change? What do you want to change, right? So if you write it down, and then we are going to try to encourage you to implement it. So you're going to implement it by simply saying, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and you're going to do it for 3 minutes every day. And then the third thing is you're going to share it, right? Because it's all about accountability. And in accountability that's what's going to hold your feet to the fire and really push the 3-3-3 challenge to really have a effect that you want, that you can decide, because it's not what anybody else decides. It's totally up to you, but you're the captain of your ship and you're driving this ship however you want to drive it. So I challenge you guys to do the 3-3-3 challenge, and share and like this video and this podcast, and just kind of hit us up on social medias and let us know what you guys think, and hold us accountable and ask us how we're doing our 3-3-3 challenge.
Thank you for listening to the Synergy Code podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe and follow us on all platforms. To stay up to date with all things Synergy Code, follow us at the Synergy Code Pod on social media. Also, thanks to our main sponsors, Top Tier Massage Therapy and Performance Recovery, MEI Coaching, ProX Productions, and the Digital Unicorn.